Hello everyone and welcome back to our channel. We are Millennial Mom. If you don't know who is who, I'm Millennial. This is Mom. Hello everyone and welcome back to our channel. Now, if you saw our intro video, it's probably going to be redundant, but if you didn't see it, it's going to be this. I'm Millennial and this is Mom. We are Millennial Mom.
But that's not redundant because it's a new intro that I've been wanting to have for a long time. So it's not redundant.
I know, for like 2 years. But
Yeah.
like we had to let it ride out first. And I really liked the song and now we got a new song for it. But anywho, we are reviewing Married at First Sight Season 15, Episode 8, Party Ways. More like Party Fouls. Because 2 of those parties were just horrible. Like, I get that production wants them to talk about, you know, their relationship to their peoples. But like, it's still a party. I thought we was having tequila and tacos.
It's only a party if you're getting along. If you're not getting along, it's a get together.
It's a get together where you're friends, where you talk mess about each other. Whack. Anywho, let's just go ahead and jump into what happened in this episode. So, go ahead, Mom.
All right.
Lead us
Well,
off.
okay. So it starts with Miguel. He's meeting with his friend prior to the party. You know how friends do. When you come back, they haven't seen you. They ask, how are things going? So that's a redundant conversation. How are things going? Because everybody's going to say that. And he's saying everything's going great.
He's a liar.
He said he's the husband that he can be. He knows that they can work out whatever they can. He says Lindy has his best interest at heart.
Yeah.
And he says that he likes her character and what she's about. And she's fun to be around. She cooks, she cleans. She don't smell like onion rings. All this, you know? And when he's having this conversation with his friend, and even at the party when we get to it, I'm thinking, okay, Miguel, so now it seems like you aren't necessarily telling the truth because from, what is this, like week number 2? And the whole week up until last week, you were talking about, well, it's only going to be maybe 8 weeks because I don't know. So, but I can see him thinking that Lindy's a good person. Oh, I shouldn't say that. That Lindy's a great person. She's fun to be around. But at the same time, it's just like, it's very contradictory. So I didn't necessarily care for his conversation. And then we have Kristen. She meets up with her friend for lunch. And the friend asks, again, how are things going? And Kristen says, you know what? There's really a big difference in how we live. I'm like, yeah, there is a big difference. She said there's a big old water tower in the middle of the house. Like, she can't even see him without looking over that water tower to even have conversation. I'm thinking, well, how big is it from the floor to ceiling? Like, Mitch, do you collect rainwater and put it in there? Because what kind of water tower would this be?
Who knows what he does?
Well, Kristen goes on to say that, yeah, he even brings home stuff from the streets, right? That he finds that he thinks are notable to or worthy.
Valuable.
Yeah, valuable. He brought home this bookshelf. In her words, she said, looked like it was from the sewer.
Ooh.
And I'm like, so you let him bring that in the house? I mean, she didn't even say.
I mean, what's she gonna see now?
She
wants
could at least
this
say
marriage to work.
She could at least have put it on the patio or something. But he brought it in the house, and I guess he's gonna clean it up in that tub. And then Kristen's telling the friend about they're having a housewarming party, you know, inviting her and everything. And she said, you know, I want to have this cute thing about having a charcuterie board and doing things like maybe French pastry, stuff like that. And she said, you know what Mitch said? He said, no, he want to do a theme like a zombie apocalypse or something futuristic. And she's like, I have never heard nothing like that. And then a friend went on to say, can you imagine him planning a party for like your 2-year-old or something? I'm thinking, no, I can't. Like, what would you do? Like,
I mean, maybe it'll be fun, but my thing is, how come he didn't want to compromise with what she was saying, which is something that's going to come up with the friends a little bit later on.
And then we have Alexis. She's FaceTiming her sister. She said, girl, guess what? Your nephew has been attacked.
Last week I called the dog Norton. Newton.
Okay.
Still wasn't made up either way.
Okay. So, of course, she's talking about the dog, and she goes in about the dog attack and how Justin's dog was aggressive.
And he's been sent off to doggy prison.
To dog training, and
Prison.
if the training doesn't work, then they talk to one of Justin's friends to maybe have the dog live over there with his friend and all. But then Alexa just went into detail about how Justin is so vague and doesn't talk to her, and you know the dog has had problems before, and she just doesn't understand why he didn't bring this up to her before the dog got attacked. Because if that was the case, then she wouldn't even brought the dog over, or even her, for that matter, lived with Justin with an aggressive dog, you know. And then the sister says, well, you know, he didn't know the dog would attack, so you kind of have to give him grace with that. And the dog is getting training, so you have to see. So after that conversation, the sister says, well, do you love him? Or something around that nature. And Alexis says, yeah, she does love him, but she's not in love with him. And she's like, well, it's only been 2 weeks, so how do you really know, kind of thing, that conversation. That conversation actually comes up again with another couple as we get to it.
Yeah.
But the sister just told Alexis, bottom line, you have to make sure he's right for you. And, you know, 2 weeks is a little soon to be saying I love you and stuff like that. Because Alexis just isn't, I don't think she's really feeling Alexis with,
Justin. Feeling Alexis?
Well,
she's feeling
Alexis. with the whole dog situation. So now we move to Morgan and Ben. And so they meet with their friends separately. And it's the same conversation.
How do you feel about them having the same conversation?
It's the same conversation.
With different people this time.
Right. I don't know.
I mean, do you feel like she needs to keep bringing it up and he needs to keep bringing it up? Or do you feel like, because I feel like she's the one who's still
holding on.
Yeah.
Well, she is holding on. She admitted that later on in their party, because she has a wall up and she can't get past it. But her friend and even his friend, you know, talking to him separately, they were saying how they both, I mean, just comes down to like being more understanding of each other. It's only been a short amount of time.
Now, is it me? Was it me? Could have been me. But when she was talking to her chosen brother about the situation, it was starting to get distorted. I was like, I cannot hear this conversation at all. And I was trying to so bad.
It was always about team whoever. Like, he's team Morgan and Ben's friend is team Ben, because, again, they don't really know each other. They're trying to get to know each other, and they're trying to tell them that their points are valid. So
yeah, but from what I heard was, it wasn't that her chosen brother wasn't 100% team Morgan, because he was telling her, you know, you got to pull down your walls a little bit. And then after that, nothing. Could have been me.
Well, then after that, we see Nate talking to his friend, and he says he's happy in his relationship. And the bottom line, the whole conversation, Nate says that Stasha goes to therapy, and that now he is considering going to therapy too, to work on his issues, to be open, to be more vulnerable.
Yeah, I really liked how he was commending her on how she's able to open up and talk about her feelings and different things. And he not necessarily wants to be that way right now, but he wants to experience the therapy sessions like she does in a way. So I'm glad that he's coming around to trying to be open, but he's not going to spill his old business.
Right, but then he did say in therapy he doesn't want to necessarily, he said he wants to take it, but he says what if he takes it and then they get to decision day and
he spills all his stuff and then
they go their separate ways,
which is a valid point. But at the same time, you do have to open up a little bit. But I feel like he's done okay.
I mean, so far he's dialing it back in. He seems like he's trying, so I'll give him that. So now we move back to Kristen and Mitch, and they're planning their party. And she said to Mitch that she has a secret for him. And that's one thing I didn't mention when she was talking with her friend, that Kristen has the secret. And the secret is, well, it is to Mitch, that she's been engaged before. She goes, remember that boyfriend I told you I had for 6 years? Well, he wasn't really my boyfriend. I was engaged. He was my fiance. And I'm thinking, I don't really think that's a secret.
Maybe her reservations were like, you know, maybe he might feel like because I've been engaged before that they would have really clicked together, because, you know, Mitch has been doing his own thing for all these years.
Right.
But my thing is, I didn't really like when she was pouring out her heart, saying like, yeah, after that, because I spent half of my savings, I just told my people, my mom, that we're just going to go ahead and go on the trip anyways. And he was like, well, that's weird. Then he came back around to be like, oh, yeah, you know, I support you, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, all right, Mitch.
So now we have scenes of off camera with Alexis and Justin. So they're arguing, I guess, in the bedroom and the evening time. So the cameras on the living room,
kitchen to the bedroom,
are catching this conversation. And she's talking about, don't be they, don't be this, don't be that. And Justin's like, I'm sorry, what do you want me to do?
Well, you have to go from what it stemmed from.
Well, it stemmed from the dog. And it turns out that apparently Alexis's dog hasn't been eating in 2 days, being cared for by Justin.
But Justin was still giving the dog the medicine. And Alexis was like, well, why would you do that? It says that on instructions, you're not giving food with the medicine, which I think is any medicine, even human medication.
Right.
That's just me. You can't give it to the dog. So Alexis is like upset that Justin isn't taking care of the dog. And then Justin kind of flips it on Alexis. Like, well, I'm trying, doing this and doing that. I didn't think to tell you.
So here's my thing with that. So if Justin was taking care of the dog for 2 days, how come Alexis didn't know the dog wasn't eating? Like, was she not there, like maybe on a business trip? Or does she leave early in the morning when the dog's supposed to be fed or whatever? Because I find that fascinating that she didn't know the dog hadn't eaten in 2 days until it came up somehow. I guess whenever Justin mentioned it in his vague kind of way.
Probably nonchalant, like, oh, your dog hasn't been eating, but you know what I did? Gave the medicine.
So now the parties begin, and Stacia and Nate, they're having like a 70s hippie party. And this friend group, and I'm surprised because I actually thought that we would see Nate's friend, the girl, the blonde girl, the blonde
Whoever
lady.
was available to take off of work is came.
Okay. But their friend group seemed to get along the most, if you ask me, out of all the couples. They looked like they were having a good time. And I don't know, did you notice any food? I was trying to look for the food.
No, nothing significant that was like, ooh, I mean, basically the parties were just for them to hang out, them to drink, them to dress up, except for Alexis and Justin because, they had their little tiff, so they didn't tell nobody. Speaking of Alexis and Justin.
What? We haven't even talked about the party.
Well, let's not talk about the party because we have to talk about their pre-planning before the party because everyone had their chance to go shopping and see what they liked. And it was just really quick scenes. But the scene with Alexis and Justin, when Alexis just went on by herself to go pick out the candy, and then Justin pops in to help her out. And then they just have the sit-down conversation about what happened
in the
back
candy
at the
shop.
house. I'm like, why y'all doing it in the candy shop? That lady does not care about your business.
I thought the same thing. Like, why are they doing this here?
Like, take it outside. But maybe Married at First Sight paid her well for them to have the sit-down conversation inside her candy shop.
Yeah, well, it turned out the same way it started. It didn't.
But to me, with that conversation, Alexis tends to shut Justin down. And Justin tends to be, as he said, contradictory with his words. And most times when you're contradictory, you're lying, which was what Alexis said. Do you agree with that?
I can agree with that to a point, yes. I don't necessarily think you're lying. Contradictory just means that you don't remember exactly what you said the first time. So it depends on what you said. If it's out of context, it could look like you've lied about something when you didn't. But let's just jump back to Stacia and Nate, their party, before I forget.
Well, that's not you being contradictory. That's just, you being sidetracked. That's
right.
different.
So, like I said, the friend group looked like they were getting along okay. But when they split up to talk to their friends individually, Nate was saying to Stacia's friends about the therapy thing, how he wanted to go and pursue that. And they thought that was a good idea too. But Nate also brought up the fact that Stacia's a workaholic, and he knows that Stacia wants to have kids in the next year. He's like, well, if she's a workaholic and she don't like dogs,
how's she gonna take care of some
kids? He said,
especially through two.
Yeah,
because terrible twos is real.
Terrible twos is real.
But I can see where his point is. But at the same time, that doesn't mean she's not ready to have a child. She can still be ready to have a child and still have her work life. I'm sure she has an assistant if she's that much into her work and her business.
I think Stacia would find or take time out to be and bond with the baby.
Because that's what she really wants.
Because that's what she really wants.
And if she end up not wanting it, then, there's always a pappy.
So moving on to Nate, Stacia talking to Nate's friends. She asked, she was talking about, the baby thing again. She said she's 37 and her timeline is a year and he's like 3-4 years. She's like, I don't want to be like 40 something having a baby. And the friends were telling her, and I thought this was a really good point. The one that's known him, he said, for half his life, that he has abandonment issues, which we heard said before. you know, and that he needs to be reassured that she'll be there for him. He hasn't had many long-term relationships because of his past, not having had a woman figure, in his life. So,
but when they said that he needs to be reassured, her face kind of looked like, I'm not too sure if I want to do that all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Like sometime, you know, letting someone know you're there for them,
mm-hmm.
being up on them, cuddling them because you know they have some sort of trauma experience, cool. But she's probably looking like, you need to take himself to therapy because I'm not doing this, you know, 4 to 7 days a week.
For the duration, right.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, that'll be interesting. I hope he does just for himself in general.
Yeah, he seems like he needs it. If his friends are calling him out on it, then he needs it.
So now we have Miguel and Lindy's party. Listen, I didn't see what the dress up was because Miguel had dressed up like that from when we saw him the first time.
It was Miguel's party. Everything that Miguel and Lindy do is starting to become mostly what Miguel wants.
Mm-hmm.
But then Lindy thinking like, oh yeah, but I do want to do this.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not too sure if she was dead set on this idea. But you know what? I would say their party was and looked the most fun out of everyone's. To me.
No. I think Stasha's and Nate's did. Because at Lindy's and Miguel's party, they were talking about, they had little cards like what would you do? Like, who's the first one who will go viral for something? And who?
It was a newlywed game.
Okay, well, they seem to know a little bit more about each other, I think, because they've had more conversations. Well, I think Stasha and Nate had the most conversations, but I think Lindy and Miguel had leveled up conversations because of the things that they're going through. But when it comes down to the friends talking, here we go with Miguel. I think Miguel, part of his thing, he likes to be charming. That's his thing. He likes to be charming, and he
he wants people to like him.
Yeah, and he presents well on the outside, but on the inside with relationships, and again, he has also not been in relationships for a long time or for whatever reason. Yeah, that's where he's lacking. You know, he comes across as saying like Lindy's charming and witty, like he said to his friends, but you know,
when he looks himself in the mirror like, don't mess this up. Like, sir, you said you pretty much wanted this to be an 8-week experience in so many words.
Right. And then when Lindy's talking, she's always like, oh yeah, he's great, he's this and that. They're both presenting what they want people to see about this relationship. Because when you get behind those closed doors, now in general, now the issue this week is, if you don't take my name, you can't be on my health insurance. If you can't take my name, I can't offer you stability. If you can't take my name, I don't know what to tell you, pretty much.
We saw later on in an episode, and we're just going to bring it up right now.
Okay.
That when Lindy did bring it up when the girls all meet together, Kristen didn't see nothing wrong with that. So, Mom, I'm going to pose you the question. Do you think in order for Lindy to be on his insurance for whatever the health year is for, that she has to take his last name? Do you think that should be something that would make him feel secure for some odd reason?
I think it would make Miguel, if he stayed past the 8 weeks, a little bit more secure, like, oh yeah, she took my last name. But do I think that their relationship can stand the test of time? I don't. But do I think that she needs to have his name just to be on her health insurance? I don't think so. I think that's on the sexist side, honestly. Because a lot of ladies sometimes don't change their names depending on their professions. You know, like that, because that's what they're known as and whatever. But at home, they go by that last name, or people know them as, you know, this is Mr. and Miss So-and-so. And then to be in your health insurance, all you need is a marriage certificate. That's all you need to change anything. You don't have to take the last name. Hyphenated, keep yours, or whatever the case may be. So I think that he's trying to be controlling when it comes to that. Like, if you can't do this unless that. There's something week to week with Miguel for Lindsay to meet his expectations in this. And Lindsay sees it as a red flag, and then Miguel had the nerve to also think it's a red flag. So, moving on to Morgan and Ben. They have a tacos and tequila party. Now let's just break this down. There's really nothing to say about this.
Disappointed with their party, because when the couples were talking about their party and I heard tacos and tequila, I was like, oh yes, it's gonna be a good party. Because Ben, I think he's cool. Morgan, I think she's cool, a little bit on the rougher side, but still think she's cool. I'm like, this is a party that I would want to go to. But if I was Morgan's friend or Ben's friend, and you brought me to this party with barely any tequila and tacos going into my belly with no fun, I would have to tell you about yourself and be like, listen, don't be putting me in a mix of you and your man's relationship like that. If it's nothing positive or nothing we can talk on the side on a different day when we're not, with his friends too, don't invite me to it, because I can't.
Moving on. So
we didn't talk about it.
Well, there's nothing to talk about. Honestly, they just talked about their honeymoons, what happened, and it was just a whole Debbie Downer. There's honestly nothing new to say about this party that they haven't said to their friends individually that they said in a group setting.
But what I thought was interesting was because they wanted to know so bad what happened on the honeymoon and stuff, and Morgan was just like, yeah, Ben, tell him. Ben, go ahead and tell him. Yeah, Ben, say what it is. And his friends were like, well, how about you say something? That you coming at us so hard. But they talked about it, and that was that.
Moving on. So Alexis and Justin's party, almost the same situation as Ben and Morgan.
I don't know who was
almost
worse.
The same situation.
Who was worse? Ben and Morgan, Alexis and Justin.
Ben and Morgan, because it was just tense from the get-go. It was like barely even talking. The friends felt awkward. Yes, the friends felt awkward with Alexis and Justin, but at least Alexis and Justin got to talk about other things.
If I was at Alexis and Justin's party, I would have been like Alexis's friend. I would have been pretty upset. This is a whole dress-up party, cute 90s theme with candy, and y'all didn't tell us to dress up.
Well, they didn't dress up either, but...
They did dress up. They had their 90s gear on.
Oh, I guess.
But the people that they brought over, it was just, to me, it seemed like they told an hour beforehand, like, yeah, we're still having this party, come through.
Alexis' sister did mention what she said to Alexis on voice call to everyone in the group. Like, you haven't known each other long enough. Give each other grace. There's going to be arguments in the marriage.
Yes, but Mom, the point of this is, do you think Alexis was right just to air everything out of what her and Justin just been through to their friends?
I don't. Honestly, that's what I'm saying, and I know it may not seem right. The conversation about the dog and the situation around the dog, who's feeling hurt, who's not,
who's not communicating, who can't communicate, all that.
I mean, stuff. I know to get together with friends and family is supposed to be, let them know how things are going, stuff like that. But I mean, you're having your first full-fledged argument. This may make or break part of your relationship. I don't think it needs to be voiced to everyone at the party like that, but I don't think you should have to sugarcoat either. If you're not getting along, then when the friends and family have the opportunity to talk to you separately, that's when you're like, oh, okay, well, this happened and we're not getting along right now. Can you help me see what I can do to change the communication aspect? Not like, oh yeah, my husband's sitting over there, he this, and that. I just felt that this party and Ben and Morgan's party was completely inappropriate for the theme and what was going on. So moving to Mitch and Kristen's party. Now, the quick scene before this party just had me cracking up. Kristen said, I bought these cute little plastic shot glasses to make some shots or jello shots or whatever in it. And, Mitch made me take them back and get these. I mean, I was like, what are those things? Those look like ranch or blue cheese or ketchup condom cups you get from Applebee's or somewhere.
As soon as I saw those cups, I'm like, I know those were expensive for 20 of them.
Well, they're reusable, so I guess...
So what's plastic? They could have recycled it. If he's so big on saving the environment, he could have been so big on saving his coins or lack thereof and got the plastic cups.
I think...
So that's just...
Yeah, I think they had a decent party.
Yeah, it was cute. Once again, I like the theme. I like that, they actually had people dress up.
It was like a weird, I don't know.
Star Trek vibe.
Yeah.
Intergalactical. I don't know.
There you go. Futuristic. That's what it was. Futuristic.
And he was making futuristic jokes like, plastic will be banned in the future.
Yeah, but that wasn't really a joke. It's just how he just tried to make it sound like a joke.
Yeah, but I felt like their party was on the fun side, surprisingly.
One of the things that was interesting for me, in that conversations, Mitch brought up the dog and how the dog snores. He's like, you know what?
He does not care about that dog
He's up at 1, 2 o'clock in the morning, and Kristen wakes up like, oh, ooh, that was a good sleep. How'd you sleep? He's like, I didn't.
Called it a useless creature. I'm just like, you can't. How are you gonna save the world, but you don't want to save the animals in the world. Do you need the animals too?
Right.
Even the ones that are useless, according to him.
And then Kristen talks about his environmentalism and how it sometimes is a little bit too much for her. And
I don't think we saw extreme yet.
well, when she talked about the water tower in the middle of the room, so I guess that's extreme.
But what I got from this conversation that she had, it's like, what is Mitch doing to compromise? Because Kristen seems like she's doing 90% of the compromise. And a relationship can't be 90-10. He has to meet her somewhere down the middle. So maybe it's this where age comes through because she is 32 and he is in his 40s. So maybe lack of maturity.
Yeah.
Because I wouldn't be doing everything he asked me to do. We have to meet somewhere.
You do have to meet somewhere in the middle, but I think Kristen really wants to be married since her first one fell through, that she's willing to make it work regardless. Okay, so now we have, is after the parties, is in the evening, and we have Lindy and Miguel, and they are talking about the name change again, which we touched on a little bit about it. And I don't know, I mean, do we really need to say anything more about the name change?
Like we said, he wants her to change the name to Beyond the Health Insurance, and she's basically like, so you want me to change my name in order for me just to go see somebody just to get a regular checkup? She thought that was crazy, and she did drop a few F-bombs, and he was laying in the bed and was like, I don't like this version of you.
I was like,
well, we don't like the version of you who's trying to deny sis some benefits.
Right.
Give her some benefits.
Right.
A little bit. I mean, even if y'all don't work out, you can always take her off.
but why does she have to remind him, like, you know, I'm a doctor too, and everything.
To slip
like,
his
we're
mind
the same. We're leveled up the same way. So how
he
come?
don't care.
Yeah.
Obviously, whatever PhD he has, he probably thinks it's more valuable than whatever PhD she has.
Possibly.
Because she don't have no health insurance.
Right. So now it's the next day, and the couples meet up individually in groups. So you have the men with the men and the women with the women, and conversations going on about how everything is going. It's always how everything is going.
That's your favorite line, how everything's going.
Yeah, but that's what they do. I can't say anything other than what they're saying. So one of the things that stand out for me with the women is, like, well, we were touched on it already when Lindy had mentioned about the name change and how Kristen piped up, said, you know, she didn't see anything wrong with it. But then Stasha said in her confessional, I'm with you, girl, because I need to be secure too. And I have to say, I'm with that aspect of it too. Like, you know, you get married, you want to be secure, you want to be partners. So I don't think that you holding over my head that me changing my name is going to benefit us in any type of way. So that was the conversation, honestly, that stood out. And then, of course, Alexis talked about the dog situation, and she says she's having a hard time with everything, and she's normally the type of woman that runs when things don't go her way, and so she's having to realize that I'm married now, I'm in this. And she said that she was going to try or give Justin the benefit of the doubt.
Morgan said something to that extent earlier too, especially with the friends that they saw, that she would run instead of sticking it through. So
Right.
I guess that's common with some of the women this season.
Yeah, and then with the men, they just had carefree conversation. Mitch mentioned the dog snoring again, how he couldn't get no sleep, and then I don't know, they were talking about Ben mentioned the dog and the cat and some other little things going on. Just
basically, you were 100% in tune to the conversation.
Not really, because they weren't talking about anything. And then when they went to talk about, well, who consummated the marriages, and then one interesting part about this part is Nate said, you know, they haven't been, you know, consummated, but like he's giving out some type of pie or something, he said. And Justin was like, what kind of pie? Apple pie? Sweet potato pie?
Justin trying to get some pie. That's
Pumpkin
what he
pie?
trying to do. He trying to lay the moves on Alexis. But honey, you done mess with Newton.
Right.
You're not about to get none for another 2 weeks till we see the other counselors.
So, yeah, and
Other than that, we end off with the episode. Basically, Miguel coming around to be like, you know what, Lindy? I see your view. You don't have to take my last name. I'll put you in my insurance.
I don't believe. I don't. It's something different with Miguel every week, so I don't believe it.
There's a catch somewhere.
Always a catch.
Something's going to happen within the fine lines.
Yep. So
for Lindy to do it, and Lindy's going to be like, okay.
Right. Hello. Yep.
But yeah, that was basically this week's episode. Now, since you always think every episode since the beginning is a filler, did you feel like this was a filler episode?
I didn't. It's the first time in these weeks did not think it was a filler episode. But I do like that they're moving forward with this. I just need to see.
What do you need to see? What more do you want?
I need to see the counselors come in because a couple of these couples are having issues.
Well, let's give them grace because they did meet up with them last week. Well, Pastor Cal did.
Well, they need them
did
again.
just get back.
Okay.
So maybe, well, we didn't see anything in the previews for next week. So maybe, like I said, next 2 weeks, we'll see them again.
All right.
All right, so thank you all so much for watching. Please make sure you comment down below, like this video, and subscribe if you not have subscribed yet. Oops, excuse me. And then share it to whoever you know.
Thank you all again for watching. And as always, live simply, be grateful.